What's going on, guys? I am super excited about this conversation that we are about to jump into. For those of you who do not know, I am Kenyon R. Dudley, and this is the Global Leaders Roundtable podcast. And so we're having discussions with leaders, kingdom leaders from around the world, literally. We have been afforded the opportunity to have a lineup of guests that are speaking our language, that's bringing their work that they have been called to do, their calling to the forefront, to the table. And we're discussing their industry, their ministry, and what is it that God has them doing, how God has them leading in this hour, in this moment. I'm super excited about this guest that I'm going to have join me in just a few moments. But listen, before I introduce her and bring her to the virtual round table and have this beautiful discussion that I believe we're going to have, I want to welcome you. I hope that your day has been amazing. I hope that you have found purpose and passion, and that you have found the zeal to go after it wholeheartedly. And for those of you who may be struggling a little bit, maybe it's kind of hard to find purpose right now or to locate exactly the meaning of it all. That's okay. That's all a part of leadership. It's all a part of the plan, the will of God for your life. And tonight, I'm hoping that something is going to be said to you that sparks excitement, that incites you in a way that brings you to a place where you're going to elevate to the next level in your leadership. All right. So again, for those of you who are watching in, welcome, welcome, welcome. Shout out to all the listeners over there on Spotify, those individuals who catch the replay there. Maybe you're in your car or maybe you're at your desk in your office and you're listening in. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Those of you who are on YouTube, thank you for catching us over there as well. Listen, if you have not, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We are building up this channel with all type of content that's going to be helpful for leaders. And so make sure you subscribe so that you do not miss any episode or any content that we upload and that we make go live to those who are following us. So this is a conversation that is specifically for those individuals who are rediscovering purpose, and more so, even for the women who are listening in on this particular episode. We have with us Myrna J. Buckles. And I hope I'm saying her name right. If not, she's going to make sure that we say it correctly. But she is coming. And today we're going to be talking about empowering women 40 and over to rediscover purpose and serve globally. And you're going to get a chance to hear about her story. And where she is in life right now and how she's mentoring. So this is a story and a discussion about ministry, about passion, about rediscovery, about missions, all of the above. Y'all, come on, help me welcome to this virtual roundtable none other than Myrna J. Buckles. Myrna, how are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm super excited that you're here. I am. I've been thinking about our discussion all day, and we talked a little bit before we went live here, and I know that you're excited about this discussion as well. How you feeling?
I feel very excited. It is amazing what God does in our lives.
Yeah.
Earlier today, I was struggling as a leader with
Mm,
motivation, and as I was preparing for tonight, I got all motivated again.
yeah.
And it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
And looking up things in the Bible it gets me excited.
For sure. For sure. And isn't it just like God, even in the moments and the times where we're kind of feeling low as a leader, he will put something on our schedule, put something in our pathway that kind of forces us to be reminded, right, of the
Yes.
calling.
Yes, over and over that has happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it when God does that. Okay. So let's dive right in.
Okay.
Tonight we're talking about rediscovering purpose.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, this is going to be good. And more specifically, I know you work with women that are over 40. I do believe that this discussion is going to be for many people who are watching in. But tell us, first of all, who you are, where you're from, where you living right now, and what God kind of has you doing in this hour.
All right. Well, I'm Myrna Buckles. I grew up in southeastern Oklahoma, but I spent most of my adult life in South Dakota. My work took me there. I worked 20 years for the U.S. Public Health Service, serving Native American tribes in their communities. And I'm in Nicaragua now. My husband and we moved here 2.5 years ago.
Wow.
And it's totally because of God directing me to a new purpose.
Right. And so when you say this new purpose, talk a little bit about that. So what happened? You were living in the States. Am I understanding that correctly? So you were living in the States, and then God called you and your husband to Nicaragua. So talk a little bit about that.
It's never quite that cut and dried, Ken.
I know, right?
So when I was still in my job, my husband and I felt very led to take our family as a unit on a mission trip. And we had done some short-term missions while we lived in Arizona with our family, but we were back in South Dakota, and our church had a pastor that was very dedicated to people in Nicaragua. And he was leading a short-term trip, and we brought our family in 2007 on our first trip. Our daughter was a senior that year, and we just wanted to be sure and expose our kids to foreign missions. Right. It was just something God really laid on our hearts. And we took that trip, and it was kind of weird for me, to be honest.
Okay.
I connected with the women. It was a building trip. We were building a church. Yeah. I am not a builder, a construction person. I'm a relational person.
Right.
So I connected with the women, and we left there, and I was like, I don't know, that just wasn't quite what I had hoped for. But our kids really got involved with the kids in the community, and that was great. Then in 2010, we came on another trip, just my husband and I, and we went to a very remote community. Okay. And again, I connected with the women. Yeah. And I just thought, I'm never going to see these women again. What is going on here, God? And he just started really impressing on my heart to serve women in Nicaragua. Yeah. And then our church actually became a partner church with a specific church here in Nicaragua, and we started going to that community regularly. And I got involved leading the women's ministry and then being a team leader, and I led the trips when our pastor changed churches. Wow. And just all kinds of things. But probably 10 years ago, God said, I want you to go to Nicaragua to serve these women. And my husband didn't feel called. He was loving his job. Yeah. And so it just was really challenging. I was retired. He wasn't. And it was difficult because I was like, let's go. And he just wasn't there yet. But in 2022, we decided to come for 3 months and see where God led us.
Right.
And we bought a house and some property out in the country. And we really struggled to find a property, Kenyon, that was right for us. We're rural people.
Sure.
We
Okay.
lived in town, and those houses just didn't work for us. They were like, it's so different than the U.S.
Of course. Yeah.
The houses are right next. Your one wall becomes the next house, and so that wasn't for us. And we drove up to this property in the country with our realtor, and we both looked at each other and said, "This is it."
Wow.
Yeah, this is it. And my husband hadn't been that sure he wanted to do this until we drove into the driveway of this property.
Yeah.
So we ended up buying this property, remodeling the house some, and the kitchen was outside, as all Nicaraguan houses have.
Okay. Wow.
So, so we kind of Americanized it a little bit, or North Americanized it,
Yep.
and got moved here in August of 2022. And it's just been amazing. In 2019, God led me to step away from leading church teams,
Okay.
and I began a separate ministry here with women in their small home-based businesses. And I'll tell you how I knew it was my calling, but here's how God confirmed things for me.
Okay.
I came in April of 2019 and did a small business seminar with a group of women in the community where I had been serving, because I knew the resources and that kind of thing. I worked with a translator and a logistics person here. We invited 15 women.
Okay.
That day, the women started coming, and they kept coming, and they kept coming, and they kept coming. And when we got to 40, I said, okay, we better cut it off, because I'm feeding these women for 5 days, and I don't know.
Right.
And I knew our facility we rented wasn't prepared for that many women.
Wow.
And that was when I just thought, okay, God. And then I started teaching.
Okay.
And I laid out a small business plan in a very simple manner. And I also didn't think I had the skills to do that, Kenyon, but I was so shocked when I just taught the material, and it was like, okay, God. But the women in the past, when we had been doing things at church, teaching them crafts or different things, had a hard time catching on.
Okay.
I don't know why. It was maybe the way we taught or something, but they supernaturally grabbed a hold of that business information and understood it.
Wow.
And it was so moving and powerful. And I knew for certain I was doing the right thing.
Oh my gosh. This is what I mean when we're speaking and teaching leaders across the nation. We're telling them a lot of times you never know where you're going to end up.
Right.
In your industry and in the ministry that God has placed you in. It's almost like you have to have this delicate balance of, sure, I'll plan out things and I'll have different goals and I'll set those things in place. But then I have to relinquish my plan and let it all go, give it to God, and allow His Holy Spirit to guide you or guide us into where we need to be. That story just tells me one thing, that there was enough trust in God, right?
Right.
To end up where you are right now in life. You didn't put any, or maybe you did, and maybe we can talk about this, but it doesn't sound like you put any barriers in place or in your way to kind of stop the flow of God. Is that safe to say?
I believe that is true. We had plenty of barriers that popped up,
sure,
but they weren't our own. And different people's attitudes, even just getting through the airlines and moving down here. That was a challenge. Selling our house and all of our belongings. That was a barrier, but
I get it.
they were very difficult and they were not fun at times.
Yeah.
But we kept on putting one foot in front of the other, and we just kept moving because we knew this is what we were supposed to do.
Right. I wonder if, and I'm really connecting with what you're saying, because for a lot of people who follow, my wife and I, we're in business, we're in ministry, and and we train entrepreneurs, leaders, things of that nature. And so a lot of people follow us and our story, and so people know that we used to live in the state of Georgia,
Mhm.
here in the States. But then we got this, what I call this Abrahamic call, where God spoke to me on my way to my office, in downtown Atlanta. I'm in my truck and he's saying, I have a place for you in Dallas.
Wow.
And literally in my worship time in the truck, he said, I want you guys to go. And I know what it means to sell everything, to give everything up, to
Mhm.
give away, all of the things you've worked hard for, and to go to a place
Yeah.
that he will show you. And you don't have all the details. You just know I must obey,
Exactly.
and so I'm so connecting with your story because I get it. How imperative, is it for leaders, to stay wide open in their heart and their mind when it comes to their calling and their work? Because it may just be that your season, is up wherever you are. Maybe God is calling you to another city, another state, another country.
Yeah.
How imperative is it for leaders to stay open and ready for God to do whatever?
It is the only option. It is so difficult to do though,
Yeah,
because as human beings, we want to have control.
right.
And that is exactly, I think, what God wants us to let go of
Mm,
is the control, because we live and breathe control. I mean, I'm a planner. We all plan, and then God just laughs, you know.
right.
He loves to laugh, I think, because there are things that have happened in the last 2 weeks, and I just think, okay, God, you're having a fun week, you
Mhm.
know.
Yep.
So,
Yep. I get
and
it.
just,
And
just when I,
sometimes it feels like you're just on a roller coaster. Sometimes it's like, okay, everything is at peace. We're going forward, no hiccups, and then all of a sudden it takes a turn, doesn't it?
it does, and you can't see that turn coming.
Yeah.
And we've had to learn something here in Nicaragua that has been really helpful for us. The
Okay.
first year we were here, it was a challenge to transition because there's a big gap between our culture and the culture here and the
Right.
language and trying to put it all together. And some days the gap is wider than others.
Hmm.
And it's difficult to understand at times. And so when we're driving down the road or trying to conduct business or trying to have a conversation with someone, sometimes we just have to look at each other and say this to each other because it's the only thing that makes sense. And it was a person in an expat group that told me this.
Hmm.
But he said, if you think about the concept of lead floating and cork sinking, you will
Hmm.
understand.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's how we look at things. You know, we'll be driving down the road and we'll see something that just really seems out of the ordinary for us. And we just say to each other, that's some lead floating there, or that's corks.
Mm. I love that. I love that. Okay, I love that concept. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm gonna try that the next time something's going on.
Well, and it's more true for our lives
Yeah,
than we realize. It really is.
yeah, yeah. I So let's turn the dial a little bit because this
Okay.
gets very interesting. Um,
Mhm.
your work that you do with these women. Um, And you're working primarily with, correct me if I'm wrong, you're working primarily with women over 40 and over.
I am. So I work with two different things. I'm
Yeah.
like you, I'm an entrepreneur and I have a ministry.
Okay.
So as a ministry, I work with women in small business in Nicaragua.
Okay.
As a business, I work with women over 40 who are looking to discover and want help embracing their God-given purpose.
Okay.
And so two different groups, though, have the business skills to help them both, and it works out.
Yeah.
I also have a lot of life. You know, it's kind of crazy, but my husband and I are in our 60s,
Oh, wow.
and we
Okay.
moved to Nicaragua. You know? And some days I think, why did we move in our 60s?
Right. It's, you know what? So many people are afraid to even try something new and try something different. And here you all are. I mean, you've lived a life,
Mhm.
right? And now it's like God says, okay, I'm giving you a totally new life, a totally new world. And that could be scary for some people.
It is
But
scary.
yeah, yeah. I would imagine that it is so. When we came to Dallas, we left our hometown. We came to Dallas. It took us about 2 years to really break through, if
Yeah,
you will. Was that true for you all too?
a good year for sure. We really struggled the first year.
Okay.
Um, but since then, we have really done much better. My husband is someone who's a doer and he needs
Right.
things to do. So he is out every day, no matter the temperature, working on our property, making it look beautiful. And it does. People drive by and they look at it. You know, they turn their head to see it because he has flowers going, he has all kinds of trees,
Wow.
and he has intentionally learned about the plants here.
Okay.
And we have connected with our neighbors. One of the craziest moments for me was when I was ministered to by our neighbors. You
Okay.
know, I felt I was really sick. My husband was back at the back of our property and I couldn't get hold of him, but I reached out to the neighbor and she came over and she stayed with me while I was waiting for him to get back, and she took care of me. She actually
Wow.
stayed and held my hand.
Wow.
And it just meant the world to me because I was thinking, wow, God called me here to minister to people, but I am being ministered to.
Mm,
It's
wow.
mind blowing and heart blowing.
Hmm. That touched me even when you said that, because a lot of time as leaders, in whatever field we're in, we're so used to doing for others and thinking ahead and being there and creating presence and space for others,
Mhm.
that we don't often get the opportunity for it to be on the other end,
Right.
where someone is just there with us. And so the fact that God would orchestrate
Yeah,
that moment, though uncomfortable for you,
it was.
but to even show you, hey, I am here with you. My presence, my spirit is here with you. I called you here, and I will send a neighbor
Yeah,
to sit with you. I
right.
mean, for those who are listening in, I would imagine that's an encouraging bit right there that you should really take to heart.
Definitely.
Yeah, as you're listening into this conversation, that no matter what God calls you to, that if He calls you to it, then I always say this: if He orders it, He's going to pay for it, right?
Exactly.
And He's going to put angelic assistance and divine intervention and assistance there for you as well.
Exactly. And one of the things that has really surprised us, or me at least,
Hmm.
is that we came here to serve the women who were in small business.
Right.
But as we lived here, we got to know people who lived around us, and we noticed so many young kids.
Okay.
And the first year we were here, our birthdays are about a month apart in May and June. And I was pretty sad about that time because it was like, I don't have any family or
I
friends here that,
know.
that speak English. And
Yes.
so selfishly, I decided to host a party for the neighbor kids because I thought, if I want to feel better, I need to do something for someone else. And so we did just a hot dog feed, and we had, I don't know, 30 or 40 kids coming by and grab a hot dog and some
Wow.
chips and a drink. And it just filled my heart. And so then we added on a Christmas event that year, and we provided food and a gift and games.
Yeah.
And that has grown. This last Christmas, we had 52 kids.
Mm.
And it was amazing. And here's the funny thing. Now, this is a surprise, Kenyon. We come here, our North American selves,
Yep.
and we think, well, these kids never get hot dogs or pizza. They
Right.
must want that, right?
Right.
And so that's what we did the first year. And then I asked my neighbor, what do Nicaraguan kids like to eat?
Sure.
They like to eat Nicaraguan food of all things. And so turns out it's much cheaper. And
Yeah.
so I pay her to cook for those things, and she can produce a massive amount of food in no time.
Wow.
And I've learned a lot about how she prepares recipes and things, because we end up with piles of vegetables that need cut up and prepared before she even cooks. And I'm like, let me help you with the vegetables at least.
Right.
And so I've learned how to cut some of them up, although I'm not nearly as fast as she is. But it is really amazing.
The
And
learning. Yeah.
and this year we took our neighbors, the couple, a man and his wife, with us to shop for the gifts.
Okay.
Because I thought, she's a mom. She's going to know what the local kids want better than I do.
Yeah.
Would you believe it was cheaper? Because she is such a good shopper. She's like, you don't want to spend that much money. Let's get this, this will be great. And so it was pretty amazing to do that with her.
But what I'm hearing here, even in this story, is strategy and partnership. Like you're partnering with the neighbors and the people of the community. It's like, and it's so funny, right? When you say we brought our North American selves there, right? And we all have our different assumptions and things like that. But I just love the leadership that you conveyed here, because even still, you thought with strategy and you said, okay, let me bring in the locals,
Right.
those who are boots on the ground before we even got here. And let's ask, what is it that is needed? How can we do this? And because of that, listen, I'm a business person, so I'm always going to hear, I'm always going to hear from a business aspect too. And so you're saving money.
Exactly. Saving money,
Wow.
Getting a bigger bang for our buck, serving more kids, and she and I have gotten to be friends. So we work on puzzle. You know what I've learned, Kenyon, is the women here need things to challenge their minds just as much as I do. So I learned that they like to put jigsaw puzzles together.
Yeah.
And so we get together every now and then and work on a puzzle. And it gave me a chance to learn more from her.
Yeah.
And we actually planned games, and we actually made our own piñatas for this year's Christmas party. And we decided to make 3 different piñatas so that we could divide the kids up by age, because it gets really dangerous for the really little kids.
Right.
They're in with the big kids when they're swinging that stick around trying to break the piñata, and it just is better. And so we had a lot of fun, and there was a lot of bonding over making piñatas.
You know what? I love the simplicity of what God is doing.
Oh yeah.
Through you and through your husband and the ministry and even the business there. It's almost like people nowadays, especially in America, right? It's almost like if you are not, you know, uh, the biggest name in the city, or having the biggest light show, or whatever the case may be,
Right.
then your ministry, your work is not effective. You're not doing anything really for Christ. And the truth is that is just not the case. There are people who are boots on the ground
Yeah.
that's in there working with communities like yourself. I mean, putting together jigsaw puzzles and feeding
Mhm.
the neighborhood and things like that. And those are the things that really matter too.
They do. And they're just a very simple way for us
Right.
to share Christ with
Yes.
people around us without preaching or just being in their face. We
Yeah.
are just living and modeling. And my husband is remarkable, Kenyon.
Yes.
He will see across the road our neighbors. He one day he was looking and he's like, they have this portable washing machine that they move around and stuff. And I bet I need to do some plumbing for them to make that work better.
Wow.
And so he offered, and he spent like less than a few dollars on parts, and he redid some of the plumbing for them, and they loved it. And it's
Wow.
it's just looking at simple things like that we can do to make a small difference, and the difference it makes in our lives is amazing.
Sure. Yeah.
We do it for them, but we're the ones impacted a lot
Yeah.
of the time.
That's what I always say, right? Like when you're doing something from your heart and it is your calling,
Right.
the fact is it's almost, and I hate to say it like this, but it's almost selfish because you're getting what you need in
Exactly.
return, for being obedient to the call.
Mhm.
You guys are amazing. I mean,
It's just who we are. It's who
yeah.
God made us to be. And that is one thing. I was listening today to a book. I had to let go of all my physical books when we moved here. So I have
Wow.
tons of books on Kindle and Audible.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a book today. And one of the things that they said in this book was God is in the resume building business.
Mm,
Is. He has, we're old enough. We have learned a lot of things. We've
yes.
experienced a lot of things. And we've learned some things about what not to do, maybe that
Right.
might be helpful. And it's really like in Proverbs, I think it is, or somewhere, it says that the older women should come alongside the younger women. And it is the same thing. God has given us these skills
Yeah.
to help others.
I love that. And for me, it's just so encouraging.
Hmm.
Because sometimes you're thinking to yourself, God, you've given me these skills, these talents, and sometimes it seems like they're random skills and talents. It's like you're all over the place. But when God sets you right in a season or a moment,
Yeah.
like He's done for you all,
Hmm.
it's like that Kairos moment that He just orchestrated, and He knew it was coming for
Yeah.
you. And so He equipped you with all of these tools, all of these things, and then He placed you right in the middle of purpose. And He said, now I'm going to call forth all of these skills and things that I've placed in you because it's for this time.
Exactly. And we don't even realize all the skills sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing. And so that's part of me serving the women over 40 with their
Right.
purpose and their calling. For a long time, I felt God nudging me to do that because I have a lot of experience with short-term missions,
Hmm.
changing what you're doing in life, stepping out of your comfort zone. And God has just really shown me that I need to walk alongside other women who are in that season of life and
Yeah.
to serve them.
That is exactly so I'm glad you said that because my next question was going to be about that. Like, so where did you get this from, right? Like, were you mentored in this? the experience, how did you gain the experience to be doing what you're doing right now, especially for ladies that are, or women that are over 40, and helping them rediscover themselves? Now, it sounds like God has put you in positions to have to rediscover yourself. So, of
Absolutely.
course, having that firsthand experience. But where did you get this from? Mentorship? I mean, where?
Would you believe God just does this stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I I take opportunities when they come. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I've learned is that we need to look and be prepared to take God ordained opportunities when they appear,
Hmm.
because we never know when they're going to appear.
Mm.
And it was last year, it was a year ago, I agreed to write a chapter in a compilation book for a lady that was my mentor.
Okay.
And I just really didn't. I was just like, oh, I'll just do this, you know, it fits. And well, that's where it came from. So,
Wow.
God, I wrote my story about how I started out in life and how I came to become a missionary in Nicaragua. And in the process, God just showed me you need to serve women over 40 in
Wow.
other parts of the world who need this, who need your experience, your support, you to come alongside them and hold their hand while they walk in the journey. And when it I was in the summit at the same time, Kenyon, I was leading my own summit, and I had 100 people register, and I've never
Wow.
had 100 people register for anything. And I was just like, okay, God, I see what you're doing here.
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so that just drove me forward. And it just really brings me to the point of I have got to do this. And I do have a mentor, and she has been great at helping me develop a program, a webinar series,
Yes.
then a mentorship that I can invite women into, and a Facebook group to support women in the meantime.
Right.
So those are the things I've put together, but it's all stuff that God has taught me. It's principles and concepts I've learned along the way, like who does God say he is and who does he say I am in him?
Right.
We need to remind ourselves of those things frequently because we forget. And we need that strength and that encouragement in our lives because we forget. You know what excites me when I do that webinar?
Hmm.
It's when I read Bible verses in the webinar. Genesis 1:1. I
Mm.
mean, that verse just gets me. God created the heavens and the earth.
Hmm.
He created it all.
Hmm.
How can we not get excited about that?
Yeah.
You know, and that's just the beginning,
Yeah.
just the beginning. And when I do my webinar, I end with this verse in Exodus, and I'm going
Okay.
to read it to you if that's okay.
Yes, please, please.
It's really huge for me in this purpose season. And it's Exodus 35:35. He had
Okay.
filled them with skill to do every sort of work
Yeah.
done by an engraver or by a designer or by an embroiderer in blue, purple, and scarlet yarns, and fine twined linen, or by a weaver, by any sort of workman or skilled designer. And that just tells us God prepares us for everything he has for us.
Mm.
And that was in Exodus.
Mm.
So
Wow.
it
Wow.
just really excites me. And I really love serving women.
Yeah.
Um, I understand them, I've been where they are, and I connect with women really well as a result.
God prepares us for everything he calls us to. He equips us, he prepares. I have literally been seeing that in my own life lately. Like it's one thing to read that scripture, to know it, to hear of it, when people preach it, or to preach it yourself, but it's another thing to live it,
It
you know?
is.
Yeah.
It is. And it really helps to be in, like my husband and I in our 60s, to look back and see what all experiences he's given us
Yeah.
and how many things we've had the opportunity to learn. You know, I learned relationship building in my professional career.
Yes.
Who thought I would use it now?
Yes. Yes.
But it's one of the biggest things I do.
Wow. Wow. So nothing, and this is what I always say to my wife and our teams, nothing is ever wasted.
No.
Nothing is ever wasted. Okay. So what would you say um to a person who's in a season of rediscovery?
Mhm.
What would you say to them as it pertains to the things that they need to pay attention to while they are in the rediscovery period? Because a lot of people kind of miss out on the lessons and the things that God is really trying to show them during that transition.
Right.
So, what are some important things that people, especially women over 40, should be paying attention to when they find themselves in this place of rediscovery?
I think one of the things that women really need to remember is that we have special, almost spidey sense skills for solutions and developing solutions for life,
Right.
for how to move forward in things, because we've done it with our families all this time and we know how to do that. The other thing is, we often, like, if we have significant life changes after 40, that's just a fact of life.
Right.
And it could be any number of things, but the key is to remember that you still have value. And for the longest time after I retired from my career, I thought, well, I had a degree, and that's what was my credential before. But what expertise do I have now? What can I say? Well, we are qualified by God,
Mm.
and God has prepared us and given us all these skills. And it's sometimes hard to find that we have value for other people, and yet we do. And I
Right.
think that is one of the hardest things for women over 40, if they have a significant life change. I mean, a big one is when your kids leave home
Yeah.
and you have that empty nest. For
Right.
me, I retired and my kids were both gone about the same time. And it was like,
Wow.
I need a reason to get out of the bed in the morning.
Yeah. Right.
And it really causes you to do some soul searching. There are several things that I really encourage women to do as they discover their purpose. And one of them is intentional prayer. Spending time intentionally asking God, what would you have me do? Where should I direct my energy? How can I serve? Who should I serve?
Right.
And then also journaling. There is something so amazing about journaling our prayers and seeing, we forget God answers our prayers.
Right.
And seeing that process happen and going back and looking through and saying, oh, I see he answered those prayers back there. And it really encourages us. And as human beings, we get so busy with life and our minds get so busy, we forget that God has done all these things already.
Oh, yes.
And we have to journal them, to document them, and to know. And I think the other thing is mentorship. Mentorship is huge for moving into another season of life. There's a reason people are willing to come alongside.
Right.
Because we see the value in mentorship. Mentorship has been huge in my life. I've learned things to do and things not to do. And it just makes a huge difference. And it really is a key part of what God has called me to do, and I think many other people.
I think, some people in this day and time, they don't appreciate mentorship, and those individuals, um, you know, it could get very dicey for some because they have been mentored by people that eventually took advantage of them in certain ways and things of that nature. But I love how you are taking the time to really show the beauty
Mm-hmm.
of mentorship, because there is a beautiful side to it. If done right, there's a beautiful side to it, wouldn't you say?
I do say that. And Kenyon, I have had mentors that said they were godly people, godly men and women,
Hmm.
and eh, they
Yeah.
ended up taking my money and maybe not doing what they said they do,
Yeah.
or walking away with it. And there have been pastors even, that I looked to for godly mentorship, and I got it for a while and then it changed.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I've learned it's very difficult when that happens.
Yes.
And I've learned that God, people use that word pivot a lot, but I feel like God has me walking down a sidewalk and he'll say, turn the corner,
Mm.
take that next block.
Mhm.
And what I have a mentor now who, I really hate setting prices for products and things. It's not my forte. and, and when it came to that for the work I'm doing now, she said, pray about that and I'll pray about it. And then we came back together and we prayed about it together before we agreed on a price.
Yeah.
That made it so much easier to
Hmm.
invite people to that and to offer a price,
Hmm.
because I knew we were aligned with God in that.
Yeah.
And to take the time to do that is, it's just it's not mind blowing. It is so significant
Right.
that we intentionally did that.
Hmm.
And she's not in a hurry. She's like, you know,
Yeah.
let's pray about it. And the next time we're together, we will pray together. And then
Hmm.
we talked about it and prayed and came to an agreement on a number. And that is remarkable.
Yeah. It's so imperative to
Mm-hmm.
have that person or those people in your life that says, I'm going to walk with you. And especially those individuals who've been there, done that in a sense, right? They can kind of show you the way. And then I always say, um, we all have blind spots.
We do.
And so we're never gonna see it all, know it all, any
No.
of those things. And so to have the right mentorship, the right people in your corner who are taking the time, who are being patient, who are being prayerful with you,
Mm-hmm.
is extremely valuable. So how would women, because I'm sure that there are some that's listening in, that will catch this, on YouTube or Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know, okay, I think I need to connect with Myrna.
Yeah.
How do they connect with you, and what's coming up for you next?
In April, and I know this will air after that, I'm offering a webinar
Okay.
for helping women discover their God-given purpose. Meanwhile, I like to invite women to my Facebook group.
Okay.
It's called Purposeful Women Over 40 Finding God's Calling. And I will give you the link for that,
Yes,
Kenyon.
please do.
It is a place where they can get to know me and see what kind of person I am, and and connect with other women in the same stage in life.
Yes, for sure. We'll definitely put that link, in the description on YouTube and all the other platforms so that um, the ladies can connect with you. Your spirit is just so sweet and yet powerful.
Thank you.
Um, and this is actually my first time meeting you,
Yeah.
and I can just sense it. And I'm so grateful and so thankful for this conversation. Now we're not going to go just quite yet because I
Okay.
want to ask you if you would, let's turn the dial these last few moments.
Okay.
Um, I want to give you the floor just for a moment. Speak directly to those who are listening in, who are watching in. Be led by the Spirit of God. Speak to those ladies over 40 who have a leader down on the inside of them, but maybe they're struggling to find it or struggling to discover, the next step, the next phase of their life. What is it that you believe God wants them to know right now?
I believe God wants you to know right now that maybe you're uncomfortable. Maybe you're in a situation where someone is guiding you and they've disappointed you. And if you could learn to use that, which has been really painful for me to learn, use it to know that it's time to move to the next mentor or the next leader or to turn that corner. Keep searching because God didn't put that uncomfortableness in you for you to just let it sit and mold and mildew in you. He put it in there for you to actively search, actively pursue, and get to know what it is He's calling you to do. And always include Him in that process.
I am so grateful for you, Myrna. I mean, this time has been valuable to me. I pray that it's been valuable to you as well. Coming to the virtual roundtable, just to have this discussion. I mean, sometimes it's good to just talk about it, and that's the reason for this platform. A lot of times as leaders, we're in our own silos,
Yeah.
right? And we are just focused on what it is that we are, supposed to be doing the work, you
Right.
know. Um, but I wanted us to come together as leaders from around the globe and get an opportunity to learn from one another and be inspired. What you and your husband are doing out there in Nicaragua, I mean, it's totally kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that those who have been watching and listening have been able to identify um, the kingdom nature in which God is really exuding through you guys. I, for me, I pray nothing but many miracles and blessings for you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me as a guest. This has been fantastic. And I just appreciate it. It's so remarkable to connect with other kingdom leaders and to have conversation. It's
Right.
very powerful.
I think so. I would agree, and I'm so honored that you said yes. Um, so we're gonna be working together, of course. I'm
Yeah.
like, there's no way this is it.
Yeah.
No way that this is your last time at the round table. So we're gonna be moving. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but we're gonna be moving these round tables in person and things like that.
Ooh,
So we've got to have you at the round table, especially when we come in person and do those type of things too.
that would be fantastic. I would love that.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Myrna, thank you so much for being here. Stick around just for a moment, Myrna. I am super ecstatic that those of you who have had an opportunity to listen in and watch, I thank you for your time, and I'm so grateful and excited that you did. You know why? Because I believe, you don't have to tell me. I believe that there was something that was said, done during this conversation that really ignited you, that brought you a certain level of revelation about your own gift, your own calling. I hope that most of all, you were encouraged. You were encouraged to keep moving, to keep rediscovering those things about yourself, those facets about your mission, your ministry, your work that God has placed on the inside of you. You, my friend, are one of the leaders of this generation. It doesn't matter if anyone knows your name or not. What matters is that the one and only true and living God knows your name. And he has called you by name. And so, whatever it is that you've been enduring, experiencing, guess what? It's just a moment of rediscovery, an invitation for you to say yes to that next level. Won't you say yes? I hope you will. For those of you who have tuned in, thank you so much. If you are on YouTube right now watching this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've got so many other great conversations, just like we've had with Myrna tonight, that's going to be coming, and we'll be dropping them right there on the channel. So you do not want to miss it. And for some of you who say, this was so great, I got to go back and listen to it again, it's going to be on Spotify. They're available for you to re-listen to it as many times as you can. And don't you forget, all the ladies who are over 40, there's a great work that God is doing through Myrna. Get connected right now. I am saying that with every bit of conviction, and I hope you feel it through the screen. I hope you hear it through the audio. Get connected with what this woman of God is doing, because it's pure and it is powerful. I'm your host, Kenyon R. Dudley. This has been the Global Leaders Roundtable. And until next time, you make sure that you lead your way the way that Christ has called you to lead.